So, so just so everybody knows, there's that button on the top right of Zoom, and it may be different if you're on a phone or an iPad or something, but you can switch the view from the speaker to the what's called the gallery, where you see everybody. So if you can right now, switch to the gallery view so you can see all of us. More are joining us, which is great. And we'll go ahead and bow into each other. So go ahead and take in the whole room, all of us together. And then when we're ready, great. Okay, excellent. Let's mute our microphone if we're not speaking today. Get in that good habit. And let's see. I will pin my video so we can, or let's see, spotlight my video. There we go. Am I the big video for everyone now? Okay, good. Excellent. Well, it's so good to see you again. It's so good to be here. I'm very excited about our class tonight. And I wanted to actually start out with just a little bit of practice. So wherever you are, in whatever context you're in, go ahead and take a good posture. And let's begin by checking in with the body, bringing our awareness to the way that the body speaks to us. All of its messages, feeling good, feeling bad, or just feeling. And please allow your hearing to be a part of this, taking in the larger context, sounds within the room you're in, or the sounds coming through the walls. And also your seeing. The richness of your visual field. And if there is some smell or some taste, maybe you had some coffee or something. So rest in all that richness of the body. And then we'll bring our mindfulness to our heart, the rich emotional context of the moment. What is arising right now in the field of your emotions? And again, we don't have to put names on this. We don't have to label things. Maybe they don't have labels. Maybe there's no words for these emotions. Maybe they're completely unique. Maybe they're very subtle. Maybe the emotional field is speaking to us through silence right now. There's no emotions. And lastly, the mind. Let's look at the mind itself. What is happening in the mind at this moment? Concepts, which here are not bad. We just look at them. Reactions, judgments, agendas, memories. We just let them play. And we're just peeking at them very briefly. And we have to be a bit soft. You can't try too hard. Just very softly look. So feel all of that, body, heart, and mind. Good. Okay. So for today's class, I would like to just start out with a quick note about the Google Hangouts. And to just say that I'm so sorry. Some of you really had a hard time with those. And you have my complete apologies for that. And some groups didn't have a hard time. When I tested myself with different kinds of technology, it was very straightforward, but I should have known better because I used to be a tech support professional. And I should have known that we would have run into unexpected things and done a little more testing, had testing sessions with you. So anyways, of course, as I said, it's a pilot program and we're learning and we'll know this better next time. There was also some concerns Google brought up to at least one participant, something that talked about recording, maybe in the terms of the agreement for the Google Hangouts. And I've been doing research and I can't find any evidence of where they talk about this. Doesn't mean it's not in the agreement. I tried to find the actual agreement and I couldn't find a section on recording. And, you know, I would say that knowing how large tech companies work, it wouldn't shock me that in some way they tap into these streams. And that's really unfortunate. And it could be that there is a technology where we could be more assured that they're not going to do that. But it's very difficult to figure out in 2018 who is tapped in and who's listening and all of that. And, you know, of course, with the revelations a few years back about the United States tapping into all the communication, it's really challenging now. So for now, I'm gonna say that I think we have to risk that together. If people have strong concerns about that, please give me feedback on that. And I'm happy to have a longer conversation and maybe we could change our mind about that. But I think we need the video technology to do the course, and I think that there is just some risk of that. I don't see any sign that Google Hangouts can record. There's no recording function. And it's also worth considering that anybody can record their computer screen with software they get themselves. There's no way to prevent anybody from recording the sound and the screen. So, you know, it might change how you feel about things, and please do let me know. And then the last thing I want to say about this is that there's been difficulties in at least 2 groups getting into Google Hangouts. That seems to be the major issue. The major problem is getting in. It seems like once people get in, they're able to use it properly. I've looked at Zoom, and Zoom has its limitations. I've looked at several other kinds of video chat software, and they have their limitations, or they're expensive. And I think, and Zoom also requires one person to host the meeting and to send out invitations to others and things like that. And that actually is really a limitation because somebody may be gone that week. And then you have to have somebody else send out invites, and who is that going to be? And I really want something where people can just drop in and they don't have to organize ahead of time. So for all of its limitations, I would like to try Google Hangouts a little bit longer. And I think once now we've gotten people into the meetings, I think we're over the worst hurdle. And I'm hoping it will be a more positive experience going forward. So thank you for your patience, and let's at least try this for another week or 2 and see what happens. And I want to say to the group that's going to meet tonight, please try to log in maybe 10 minutes before. And that way you'll get a little extra time, or 15 if you're concerned. Another concern was that the photographs of the other people in the meeting are so small in Google Hangouts. And I agree, and I think this is also a limitation of that technology. It would be nice to be able to make them larger and spread them around. But I think considering what the other limitations that we're looking at in the other kinds of software, we'll just work with that for now. Okay, let me see if I have anything else to say about that. Yes. If you're about to log into a meeting and somebody else logs in early and your device is ringing for you to go into that meeting and you're not ready yet, the meeting hasn't started yet, you can just say no. You can just hang up. And it's no problem. They can go into the meeting. They can do what they want to do. And you can just come in when you're ready. You just ring that meeting when you're ready. So you log in, you click to go into the meeting, and then you hit the little video button, and that should take you in. Okay, and if there are further questions about this, please contact me and I'm happy to assist. I could even meet with you over Zoom and try to work out issues by seeing your screen and things like that. So, so here we are, and let's see how this goes. Okay, that's the technical part of the conversation. I will send out the reading assignments and the green zone exercise for this coming week, probably tomorrow. So look for that. And in terms of the readings from last week, I wanted to ask if there was any comments, particularly on doing the ritual of the 4 elements. Did people have things they noticed doing that ritual, or questions or anything? So all your mics are turned off right now. So if you speak, please unmute your mic.
Hello, Greg. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, quite clearly.
I'm out in my Volkswagen VW camper van because my house is occupied by others.
Right, right.
And it's working, so this is good. Now I'm seeing myself. Is that okay on the big screen?
Yes, is that okay with you?
That's fine.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, I wanted to say about the rituals, the 4 elements in the ritual exercise. Last night I had a very difficult night in my neighborhood. Drugs, shootings, things like that going on. And this is the second time in the last couple months that this has happened. And police and all of that kind of stuff. And neighbors. And what I found was that the neighbors who were involved in this, I actually care for. And it's a tricky situation. And so I had a hard time sleeping. I mean, the police were here forever, through the night. And, I worried about the people. Of course, I woke up, I did Hong Lan, which really seems to help me, which is a sense of taking to everyone involved, including myself. And I did the rituals. I got my water out, got my candle, got my shell. There was a little breeze in the room for the air. And I found going through that it was a way for me to kind of touch in
Leslie?
part of
Leslie?
my awareness. Can you hear me?
It's cutting out a little bit. Why don't you try turning off your video if you would? I think it'll make your voice stronger.
Okay, video, stop video.
Yeah.
Can you hear me better?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure where I left off with you being able to hear me, but I did the 4 elements after this difficult situation I went through last night, and caring about these people. But it's a mixed bag. I certainly don't want shootings, 2 doors from me, and you know what I mean. So when I did the 4 elements, I felt like I could really feel into the moments of my experience in the moment, and realize they're like, it's almost like there's a variety of things that I can tap into, not just one thing, not just one way to see everything, not one way to see the situation in the neighborhood, not one way to see my relationship with the people who are involved. So it kind of helped me see that there were different ways to see the moment. Going through the elements themselves helped me see the bigger picture of the other part. So that's really just what I wanted to share today.
Great. Thank you so much. That's actually a really poignant example of bringing a yellow light experience into a green zone. Thank you. Does anybody else want to comment on their experience? I think Ida, do you have your hand raised? This is funny. I didn't notice these hand raised options, raising the hands.
Yes,
Okay.
I did. I did
Okay.
have the hand raised before when you were speaking about that some people had the fear of Google Hangouts being recorded.
Yeah.
And what all I just wanted to shortly maybe clarify is this came because under your mail about the Google Hangouts, you mentioned where the recordings could be found. And in my little Dutch group, somebody thought this you were referring to the Google Hangout recordings. So I just wanted to mention that because maybe that's why some confusion has arisen, because there are no recordings of Google Hangouts.
Right, right. Thank you so much. Okay, if that's a confusion for anyone, it's true. We are not recording the Google Hangouts.
Right. So that was it. And if I may, the 4 elements. It was the first time I did it so consciously to take a rock, take a candle, take some water, and it had a very soothing effect on me. I had a bit of a consternation before all that, and when I made the fan, I folded the fan of paper. I was thinking it was a kind of a bit childish thing to do, to fold a fan, and I didn't imagine I could do anything with it. And when I was moving the air in front of my face, it was so calming and it was so sweet that I was surprised, but that through these few elements, it was soothing. Yeah, that's the best word I can use for that.
Great, thank you. Does anybody else have maybe just one last comment on that exercise?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, very clearly.
Yes, when I did the exercise, I was surprised that there were moments where I was really felt stuck emotionally. So when I started with the earth element, that felt very heavy. So I really could have this connection between my mood and contemplating the earth element. So it was pretty, it didn't feel so comfortable. And then I went on to the water element, and there that was really great because I really could feel, yes, the movement of and the fluidity, and so that was kind of relief. And so I went on, and the water element at that moment was really the element I felt the most. So, yeah, that's
great.
wanted to share.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I want to say that the the idea of the four elements is probably obvious, maybe, but the idea that we are not separate from our world, that our very experience is built up of all this stuff of our world, and we think of ourselves as the part that's separate and can look around and have opinions about everything, and maybe that's sort of true, but on the other hand, we are looking at our own nature. That's a pun, I guess. And looking at our own nature, we can feel at home. It's really wonderful to hear these experiences. As with all the exercises, if it didn't connect for you, don't worry. Not everything works for everyone, so. I wanted to say tonight, moving on now, that we were talking about doing an interview tonight about green zones with the leaders of the group here, Klara and Piotr in Szczecin, Poland, who've run a green zone before. But we've decided to actually put it off for now for various reasons. Piotr is not feeling well tonight. I hope you feel better soon, Piotr. And it just seemed like better timing. Klara is very kindly coordinating my program here. So there's already a lot going on, and it can be done later over video chat, so we don't have to stress them about that. So instead, what I'd like to do tonight is to give a talk on the yellow light. We've talked about the green light, we've talked about the red light, and now to move on to the yellow light, and particularly talking about the yellow light and ambiguity. And so I will give a little talk, and then we will do an exercise together. And then after the exercise, we'll do a group discussion. So just to review, the yellow light state is experienced as it always starts with some sense of surprise and shock, being startled. There's no, or ashamed, maybe ashamed is another option. So there's no sense that the yellow light is something that we master. If you go into the yellow light, in some way we've already been surprised. We're not going to see the yellow light coming by definition. By definition, the yellow light means we didn't see it coming. So this can be very ordinary, realizing that you missed an appointment. You just forgot. Or realizing that you're about to miss your train. Or somebody cutting their car in traffic in front of you suddenly. There's the jolt that we feel, adrenaline. And I would say at some level, the yellow light always has a little bit of that sense of adrenaline. So that's always the first part of the yellow light. But it's not the only part of the yellow light. I would say we're not even in the yellow light 100% yet, actually. because these things could happen in the green light. Like, you know, if you like to play sports, competitive sports on teams, and sometimes things shock you and surprise you, but you're so glad to be doing it. It's actually really exciting. You know, or you're dancing and somebody twirls you suddenly and you feel that surprise, but actually you actually feel very comfortable with that. You're comfortable with being uncomfortable. That the vulnerability of that is actually a delicious feeling. So the shock and the surprise are not quite fully yellow light yet, because the yellow light always has a second part, and that second part is where we turn against ourselves. There's the kind of self-attack part of the yellow light. And I'm just realizing I should have pulled up the diagram, but I didn't. So I will send out the diagram of the 5 yellow lights, the mandala of the 5 yellow lights, of different ways that we feel in that moment, different ways that we attack ourselves. Or that maybe attack is the wrong word. Maybe it's actually better to say different ways that we really doubt ourselves. We doubt our goodness, you know, the basic goodness. And we actually feel that maybe we lack that quality. So it could be, you know, feeling that I am a person who makes mistakes, not just in reality, like I make a mistake, but that I am a person who is built in such a way that I cannot help but make mistakes. You know, it's very total concept. And very black and white. It's very black and white thinking in this moment. This is not our sophisticated mind. It's like a reflex or an instinct almost. And we won't say it's a natural reflex. We'll say actually that this is it's a pattern that's been developed over time because we've misunderstood some fundamental truths about ourselves and about our experience. So we've built this habit of thinking this must be me, and it must be me because of how I'm fundamentally built. I'm just a person who will never be able to do things right. I'm a person who isn't built so that someone could love me properly. Truly, you know, nobody wants me, you know, in the world. All of that. This is very, again, it's very painful, and it's very imaginary. You know, it really has a very childlike quality to it. So, so if we don't do that attack, anything could happen and we could actually still be in the green. We could still see the larger picture. We're not attacking ourselves. We're just shocked. I'm just shocked. And, you know, it's amazing if you see somebody in that, with that level of practice and self-awareness, where they get shocked and they're still right there and they're still connected to themselves. That's the green light, right? Connecting to body, heart, and mind. They stay connected to body, heart, and mind, even though there's this shock effect. I think of Were we talking about this previously? Maybe we were. Were we talking about the Mathieu Ricard, the French meditation, pretty highly trained meditation master, and the sound of the gunshot? Were we talking about this? Maybe not. Okay. I'm having a deja vu. But there was research that was done by Richie Davidson, and who's a really well-known neuroscientist and researcher on meditation. And he did testing on these high-level meditators and having them hold really, basically just super strong green light states that they have trained in over decades. And they would put them in a room and they would put all the brain monitors and everything. And they would give them a very strong stimulus. So in this case, it was the sound of a gunshot going off right next to you. So loud, but it was a recording. It wasn't a real gun. And they had tested, I think they had tested hundreds of people this way. And every single last person, including trained people who worked with guns, they all did this. They all flinched and contracted. And when they tested Mathieu Ricard, instead of flinching, he smiled when the gunshot went off. So I think we can really contemplate that the yellow light is not a fundamental state that we are forced to go into. It's just really how most of us are trained. We've trained our mind in such a way that shocks are really a bad thing. And they make us, they are the stimulation that we've used to develop a pattern of self-doubt. So, so then we have to talk about shock and surprise as a way to encounter, what you might call, you use this phrase, liminal states. You're in between this and that. It's neither this situation nor that situation. It's unclear. And that lack of clarity itself, many of us have trained ourselves to think of that as a real threat. It's like a swamp. The swamp is neither land nor water. So how do you move through a swamp? It's quite difficult. Your techniques for land don't quite work. Your techniques for water don't quite work. And so we don't have strategies in that moment. That's the part of the problem with the yellow light, is that our shock and our surprise give us a sense that we don't have strategies. And we don't yet have a story. When we get surprised, we don't have a story yet, because it happens so fast, it disrupts us from whatever story we were in. When you spill your tea on your lap, it's very strong and it's very sudden. And so without a story, we are left just with the energy of the situation, the kind of the raw energy of the situation, or the raw experience of the situation. And without a storyline, this energy is so strong. There's no channel for it. It's sort of like a flood. It goes in every direction. The river has jumped over the banks of the river and is spreading out. And we feel a bit swept away by this. And I want to contemplate the idea, or you could just consider the idea, that this is actually a glimpse of our raw human experience. That our raw human experience is very strong, it's very powerful. You know, it's not tidy. It's not like a, you know, it's not like a nice yard around a house with, you know, very carefully manicured plants. It's more like a jungle going in all directions, you know, and you don't know what's happening. And it feels out of control in some way. It's not being controlled. And, you know, because most of us have trained ourselves to try and keep things under control, understandably so, of course, you know, it's not like we're foolish to have some control, but maybe we go a little bit too far. This is possible. And because we go a little bit too far with it, instead of that being skillfulness, it becomes more of an emotional management technique, so to speak. So in this moment, we get shocked, and this experience floods out. We look for a container to put it into. We want it to get back into the container. And this first story that we tell, just out of habit, is often the story about ourselves. It's my fault. This is all my fault. I'm being surprised. I'm having this flood of experience because I don't know, but it must be me. It has to be me. And again, we're not talking about making a mistake. We're really talking about this childlike feeling. It's how I am. It's how I'm built. So do you understand what I'm saying? Like this, so we have found a container or a channel to pour this experience into. Now I know what's happening. It's not uncontrolled. I'm controlling it at least a little bit because it's my fault. Because I'm not, you know, I lack basic goodness. You know, it's funny, we often consider ambiguity to be more threatening than pain. Like we will take pain over an ambiguous experience. There's really tangible examples of this, of course, with you know, the patterns that people do sometimes of, you know, cutting themselves or burning themselves in various ways that people harm themselves. And actually maybe much more generally ways in which we almost seem to stimulate pain in our life as a way to make the situation more clear. People who have patterns of cutting or burning report that it makes them feel very calm to do so, right? You know, it doesn't make them feel worse. It makes them, from their perspective, feel better in the moment. So it's very difficult to get someone to stop doing that. Instead, they have to work with ambiguity. And that's, in some ways, we have less tools or we're given less tools. We have tools, if I may say so. So in this moment of chaos, of the yellow light, when we don't know what's happening, we could think of that phrase, you know, from Sun Tzu, the ancient Chinese war strategist, right, who wrote The Art of War. In the midst of chaos, there is also an opportunity. And contemplate that when things are disorganized and there's this longing to put things into some sort of storyline, that there's an opportunity there for someone to exploit that, you know. And this, some of you have heard me tell the story of Susan's very first talk she went to with her teacher, Chogyam Trungpa, that he was talking about this. He said, this is if you doubt your basic goodness, essentially, then you're susceptible to corrupt politicians and advertisers who want to sell you the solution to your feeling disorganized. They will give you a nice organization, right? We all, I mean, this is so obvious actually when you think about it. You think of all the ways that people get recruited into harmful activity. And why do they do it? It feels like a relief from not knowing what's going on. So this doesn't have to be, just to add a further layer of complexity to it, it doesn't have to be somebody consciously taking advantage. You know, maybe the politicians and the advertisers have, you know, very clear strategies they've worked out about how to take advantage of this. But it also could just be another confused average person who just hooks into that moment where we don't know what's going on and unconsciously pulls you in a certain direction, right? We get pulled. Somebody says, here's the answer. Come with me. We're just very easy to influence. And maybe that person's doing that for their own reason. Maybe it solves their fear of ambiguity. So this is a dynamic system. You know, this can be happening from different directions at the same time. But chaos is also an opportunity, actually speaks to the deeper truth of the fact that we actually have the possibility in this moment of being in the yellow light, of being groundless, attacking ourselves, losing our confidence. We have this principle of the green zone that we can rely on, that there is a direction to go in. And that direction is to provide a kind of simplicity to our environment. And a simplicity that is also pleasing, at a very basic level pleasing, like not pleasurable per se, but just a relief, something that feels like a relief. And this green zone can be whatever works for us in that moment, or whatever works for someone else in that moment. I'll never forget my own mother when I was 16 years old. And there was a long story I won't go into, but a teenage conflict. And essentially I'd gotten in really, really big trouble with her. Most specifically with her. So she and I were having our conflict. And, you know, it was a conflict where I had broken the rules, right? So I was the very naughty one. And instead of just continuing the drama, there was a lot of drama, but instead of continuing that, she decided, you know, stroke of genius, to take me out to a rock climbing facility, you know, because I loved rock climbing. And it was everything to me at that point in my life. And so she just took me there. She didn't really say too much. She just said, "Do you want to go to this place?" And I said, "Yes." And so she took me there and just let me climb for several hours. You know, I was a very physical teenager. And it just was such a relief. It allowed me to feel that goodness again. And I was in a very strong yellow light feeling. You know, this just can be so simple. And really the amount of effort on her part, once she realized what to do, the amount of effort on her part was very minimal. She just sat in the car and read a book and let me do my thing. And then she drove me home. So, so what is the purpose of this? Then the purpose of this is that the green zone, bringing the yellow light into a green zone, helps us reconnect with our sense of goodness. It helps us come out of this kind of desperate state. And what that does is that returns to us our agency. So instead of just being pulled in whatever direction, we start to be able to choose more. So this is extremely, extremely important. And I think this is one of the major goals of this course, is to actually internalize and make automatic that sense of bringing the green zone to the yellow light, whether it's us or someone else. Or, you know, sometimes we don't know what the green zone would be for this individual or this group, but we could, even there, we could long to understand what's the proper green zone. What would help people regain their agency, their connection with themselves, and then move forward together. And the last thing I want to say is just that all the mindfulness practices that we do help us to work directly with ambiguity. That part of what happens, let's say in sitting meditation, is we see the ambiguity that's already there. There already is groundlessness. There already is a kind of fuzziness to our experience, where things aren't quite in focus, or things are shifting inside ourselves. Thoughts that, you know, sometimes if you're sitting and you watch your mind like we did today, sometimes what you'll see is you'll see thoughts falling apart. And it's almost a little upsetting. Thoughts aren't supposed to do that, but actually thoughts do that a lot. You'll watch a feeling changing and dissolving. You know, I was so filled with longing, and now it's less. And it's even getting less still. What does that mean, that I had such a strong longing and now it's dissolving? or something new comes up. You know, we get shocked actually by our own minds. We're going to get into this in a later class. So, you know, we could work with this when we're doing sitting meditation on the cushion. When you're doing a walking meditation, you can look, one of my favorites is if you're in a room with corners doing walking meditation, sometimes it's that moment when you turn to face a different direction. Really tune in to that moment. There can be a lot of ambiguity in that moment because you're not facing one way or the next, you're in process. And it's often when things are changing that we feel most ambiguous. So please use your mindfulness practice to explore that. Let's just take a few minutes for comments and questions. Does anybody have anything to offer around the yellow light and ambiguity? I heard a microphone come on.
Yeah, that's Ida.
Oh, okay.
Ida here.
Great.
Yeah, thank you for this very vivid explanation of how the yellow light feels and what it does to us. I wanted to ask, I'm not sure myself, till now we speak like of stages going from green to yellow to red, from red to yellow to green, or whatever sequence it has. But when I look at myself and my past, I think this yellow feeling of not feeling welcome or nobody wants me, for a long time it has been actually kind of attitude in life for me. How do you see that? If that has kind of made a groove in you, made a scar or something, and that kind of attitude, almost believing it, that it's true. Yellow all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know how others feel, but I actually feel that that's quite common. That it almost becomes a way of life in some way.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's true of any of the lights in a way, you know, because the red light could become a way of life, or the green light could become a way of life, depending on how often it's repeating and how normal it feels to us. You know, it just becomes normalized. And then when we leave that light, we're not sure what to do with ourselves. You know, it could become just a part of the pattern. Thank you. Yeah, do you have anything else you want to add? Does that answer that enough?
For now, thank you. No,
Okay.
I think for now that's very, so you recognize that, and that's what a way of life can be, and that's what we can recognize in ourselves and sometimes others. That it's not just a stage momentary for a few moments, but it can be really, so it's important to know for me also who I'm dealing with or who I'm communicating with.
Right.
And recognizing that and have compassion for that, to begin with oneself.
Yeah, beautifully put. Right, to recognize it and have compassion. I love that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, you know, it is always happening moment by moment each time, but those moments can really be, it's like a feedback cycle or a vicious circle, you know, that's feeding back and just spitting out the same answer over and over. And if this is, you know, if this is us, it's really challenging. It feels really hard. We feel a lot of struggle. We feel like, you know, and then we start to lose confidence. I can never change, or, you know, we get stuck. And actually sometimes the change is quite slow and we have to learn how to be patient with ourselves through that kind of process. Yeah, thank you. Any other?
Yeah.
Yeah, Martin.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. I really appreciate that you distinguish between two different phases in the yellow light. And yours, am I right that I heard you saying that the first surprise, the shock, the startled moment is not really the yellow light. Maybe it's the door. And then also maybe taking or expanding on what Ida said, the storyline that we develop as a container to get back into a kind of safe state, that isn't that a moment where we actually already congeal the energy into a certain format that might lead to a red light, because it is already putting a filter between what's happening and my experience, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so that's actually the moment where we develop habitual patterns, stories that we use as lenses, buffers. So in that sense, it really helps me to reflect that gap where I might not, or where I might feel a possibility not to enter that, but back into, as you said, in the green zone. We need to catch that. Huh? Thank you.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You know, I'm thinking of the term coming out of Buddhist psychology of co-emergence, that there's that moment of shock is the moment where we could open up or we could shut down. And there is this feedback loop. As we congeal that energy, it becomes harder to back out. It becomes increasingly harder to open up. So that gateway of the moment of shock, you know, obviously at the very, like a high level, you could do what Mathieu Ricard did, which takes a lot of training. So often the rest of us, we go into the yellow light, and it's slippery. Once we get into the yellow light, you know, or maybe it's back to the swamp. You get stuck in the swamp, and it's hard to get out of the swamp. You know, you sort of start to sink, and the red light is there as the potential that, you know, maybe we start to not want to get out anymore. We want to go deeper. We start digging ourselves deeper. And it's very, at a low level, it just causes harm to ourselves and others. And at a higher level, it causes a lot of drama that can be quite unfortunate, you know. But of course, the red light is normal, as we've talked about. The red light will happen. We do the red light. I do the red light. I'm assuming you do the red light. We all do it. So we have to work with it. Thank you. Okay, I would love to have more discussion, but I'm also eager to do our exercise for today. So maybe we could have more discussion online on the chat forums, and let's see if we can do this exercise, because I'm kind of excited about it. So here's how it's going to work. Is I'm going to, through Zoom, I can put you into breakout rooms with a partner. And so I came up with this exercise, and I think it'll be an experiment, but I think it'll evoke this yellow light feeling. And the idea is that we'll do this for a few minutes, and then we'll come back and have a little discussion before the end. So So what I want everybody to do right now for, let's say, a minute, is to think of some very ordinary part of your day today, very ordinary. And I want you to write a very short, simple sentence that relates to that part of the day. So for example, in my day, these are two real things. I wrote down, the jacket I bought is blue. Right? Okay, that was just something that happened today and I bought a blue jacket, so that's my sentence. Or the other one I wrote down was, we chose sourdough bread. Okay, so these are just sort of random little moments. And the point is not to be too fancy. It's actually simple is better. So let's go ahead and just take 1 minute and then I'll explain the rest of it. Okay, so start to finish that up. Okay, so hopefully you have something, or if not, you could maybe think of something in the situation. Again, simple, basic, nothing dramatic, you know. And the exercise will go like this. So you'll be with your partner. And as soon as you get into the breakout room, the idea is just to start having a normal conversation. Like very light, like just, you know, what you say in English, chit chat, small talk. So, you know, what did you do last weekend? You know, how's your job going? You know, that kind of boring stuff. And so you'll chat, like, go ahead and give it at least, let's say 2 minutes, just talking back and forth. And then at some point, this is not planned, at some point in the conversation, you will insert your statement. So one person will obviously do this first. So essentially, it'll be a non-response to what was just said, right? And then what happens is when that happens, the person reads their statement, then I want you to just rest and feel that for 5 breaths. So 5 breaths in and out. And you're really just feeling the ambiguity of getting a non-response. And then, awkwardly, you'll start chit-chatting again. Might be, you know, you might notice the change. And then, at some point, the other person will read their statement. And 5 breaths again. Okay, so we're just closely examining, we're bringing mindfulness to this moment. And particularly the yellow light of getting a non-response and feeling that break in connection. Okay, does that make sense? Is there any questions just about the technical side of that? All right. And the final part is that if there's any time left, you can chat to each other about what's happening. But I will, because of our timing today, it has to be somewhat short, and I do want to come back to everyone. So I think the whole process will take about 7 minutes. Okay, so let's see, hold on here. 2, 6, 8, 10, 18. Okay, good. All right, so I'm going to organize this right now with my technology. And okay, get ready. And here we go. Oops. Hello, my dear.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Except my light is changing here, so it's getting very dark.
Oh yeah, same here. Same here. Is this our group?
This is our group, you and me.
Oh, lovely. Lovely.
Yeah. So what have you been up to today?
No, it's just a relaxing day. Yesterday was a traveling day. I went to my parents. Actually, it was more of an occasion to talk to my best friend, who was going just there to pick up a freshly bought car. So we spent like 10 hours in a car just talking.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a bit of a drive.
Yeah. Yeah. So today it's at home, answering emails, follow up after the program.
Sure.
Organizing tickets for Krakow.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah,
Right.
things like that. I talked to Anya about the program and Greg about the Wednesday follow-up meeting.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so glad you guys are organizing that. I would love to see that turn into something, over time, a little green zone. It's really neat to see it here. I mean, they're actually going to start up their green zone again. So we had trouble with the parking today. So, so where do your parents live?
Oh, they live in the south, 300 kilometers away from here.
Did you grow up there?
Oh yeah, first 18 years of my life.
Ah.
Yeah. So that was pretty nice. Yeah. And today I was doing dishes for such a long time.
It's very
Yeah, and
interesting.
I also saw my brother.
How's he doing?
Yeah, doing well. Just got back from his holiday. Yeah. How are you feeling in Szczecin? I'm curious. Is it your first time over there?
No, second time.
Second time?
Yeah, it's good. It's really nice. I'm staying in Magda's place. Very nice.
Magda Brancewicz?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. It's like the palace, you know.
Yeah.
Great okay.
Place.
Okay, good. We can stop our exercise. That was good. I think it's very interesting. It's very subtle. Let me see if I can give them a warning. I can do it from here. I'm going to just say 2 more minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got it.
Good. Fantastic. All right. It's getting so dark here. There's no light that I can turn on where I'm at. It's very awkward.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, actually, hold on. Let me see if I can turn on this light. 1 second. Where's the light switch? It's just one light switch. I don't think that's going to help. It's a little better, but it lights me from behind, so, you know. Okay, that's a little better.
That's nice. Cool. I love this idea of exercising and small groups. Great.
Right. Yeah. A little less talking, more direct experience.
Yeah. Do we still have time, or are we getting back to the group?
We have just 1 more minute.
Want to continue exercise or just?
Well, this is just the part where we chat with each other about the exercise. We could check in and, you know, so I don't know. We can't get into very much in 1 minute though, can we?
Yeah. Yeah, that was interesting. I felt no discomfort at all.
I felt like a deadness or something, like suddenly the energy dropped or something, but it wasn't painful exactly. It was more like, ugh, you know. It actually really reminded me of my family. There's a lot of non sequitur, non-related statements that happen.
Oh, that's amazing.
Okay.
Now you made me think about my family, my yesterday meeting with them. Oh gosh. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I'll see you back in the group here.
Yep. See ya.
Close all rooms. Okay, 60 seconds. And then I will leave.
Or I can just click return to main session, right?
Okay, yeah, sure.
Oh, there we go. Everybody's coming back.
We were the first. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Erica.
We weren't done.
How rude, Greg.
Yeah, Greg, you're putting us all in the yellow light now.
It's getting a little red, sounds like.
Yeah.
Let's see, is everybody back here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So yes, great. We're all back. Apologies, everyone. Things are getting dark and fading away into ambiguity. Please mute your microphones too. Great. Yeah, I'm fading away, and there's no. I looked around. There's no light where I'm staying to turn on. So, I would just love to get any reactions to the exercise. What did you notice? Just directly. What did you notice directly in your own experience? So,
Can
yeah.
I say something?
Sure.
It was very uncomfortable. We actually, Christina and I actually had a moment where it was almost, it felt like a misunderstanding that happened because I guess I didn't notice her words, or, you know, it was kind of going in and out, but she said, "Did you notice my comment?" And I just took that as the moment. And I took 5 breaths because it was very uncomfortable to have that moment happen.
Yeah.
Probably similar to what it would have been noticed what that comment was. Bad that I left her in that spot because we were trying to discuss it when you kind of took us back to the other spot. So I wanted to just say to Christina, I'm sorry I didn't hear your moment. And here we are in our uncomfortable positions.
Yeah, yeah. Great. Yeah, that's technology creates a lot of these moments, actually, interestingly. Any other? Yeah, sure.
It was kind of 2 yellow lights. First, the yellow light of not having spoken to Juan first, not yet nowhere in my life I never encountered Juan, so that was a new meeting. And then also when he said his sentence so quickly after mine that I was shocked. I didn't expect it so early to happen. So that was ambiguity because of a little bit of being uncomfortable because we haven't really talked to each other before. And the second yellow light because of the shock that, it was already there. And I immediately fell into discursiveness.
Discursiveness. Yeah. Great. So it happened a lot in the mind. Yeah. Thank you.
Can I say something, Greg?
Yeah, sure. Elvia, hold on here. There we go.
So I was commenting to Chris that I was in the state of anticipation, kind of, with your instructions. So I was like on guard, like, when is this going to happen already? And we were commenting on how subtle this yellow light area can be when you're not expecting it. That's when you really feel caught off guard, right?
Yeah, right.
So it's just feeling that, okay, this is going to happen. I'm kind of expecting it to happen. So it wasn't such a big surprise, which I think is very different from real life when things like that do happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's it. I want to say, these artificial, simple examples, in a way, are it's like making it so low level that we could actually bring our mindfulness to it. Great. Chris, I saw that you were.
Well, yeah, just going off of what Elvia just said, I was surprised that even though we did anticipate it and we knew it was going to happen, how I don't know if strongly is the right word, but I definitely had a physical reaction, a visceral reaction. And I went first. I gave my sentence first. So I even got to experience that side of it. So of course I knew that soon after Vicky was going to deliver her sentence. But your word earlier today of startle, I think was just such a good word because it's just like, it was just like this in my body, like, whoa, even though I expected it. So I thought it was really, really a cool exercise. Kudos to you for coming up with it.
Great. Thank you.
I loved the structure of the silence, the 5 breaths afterwards, because you couldn't, so she stopped. She said her non sequitur, and we stopped, and that space to feel what happened was just, it worked really well. And we remarked to each other how subtle it could be. Like the statement doesn't have to be even that much different than what is being shared, and yet you can feel it without even knowing that maybe you've had a reaction to something, without even realizing consciously that the door to the yellow light has opened, and how quickly we can respond in a habitual way, just because we're familiar with that uncomfortable feeling. So we're gonna respond in our particular energetic way. It worked. That's all I can say. It was great. Thank you.
Great. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. Even though I knew it was coming, it took me by surprise, and I felt a sense of, all this time I thought I was establishing this rapport with this person, and then suddenly I realize they're not listening. I mean, that was the interpretation that I gave to this unexpected sentence.
That's very powerful as well. That not only do we have a reaction, but we have an interpretation that rises up. And it's so funny because, of course, obviously in this case, it's completely artificial. So, and yet still our mind generates a story. This person's not listening to me. Did anybody notice any emotions around that in terms of this break? I mean, we obviously have the startle effect, but did you notice particularly any self-attack happening? Like they're not listening to me because of something, or? Oh yeah, Jagosh.
It was actually very interesting to observe it, because it actually somehow it felt the other way. When Scotia was interrupting me, it was I felt like, well, this is kind of like unexpected in a way, but it's somehow like when we gave space for it, it was like coming back to the green zone. So even though there was some kind of ambiguity, it was so fast that I could enter this very safe space that it actually felt okay. This is interesting somehow, and like even playful in a way. But when I was interrupting Scotia and just saying this very random thing, and then like looking at her and seeing her like startled reaction, it really evoked this yellow light in myself very much, and it was much harder to kind of go back to this sense of relief, or so that was interesting to see, like it can go both ways somehow.
Go both ways, sure. Great, thank you. Let's we're at the end. Should we do one more comment? Is that okay? Okay. Oops, I hear, let's see here. There we go. Clara? Oops. There we go.
Yeah. Hi. Yeah, I wanted to say that it was interesting because I felt like an intruder, because we were talking with Zoe, and then she said her statement, and then I was having the reaction. I was just like talking with her, and then I've noticed that she's just like sitting still, And then I had this feeling like, oh my God, I'm an intruder. I'm interrupting. I'm unwanted in a way. So that was really interesting, like how my thoughts, like in which pattern they actually went.
Yeah.
But the second thing is actually, I also experienced like the second exercise of yours with the paper, because we got, like, I got a pop-up that there's like 60 seconds left. And I was like, okay, like we still have time just to elaborate about like what happened. And then when it was like 36th second, we just went directly to the room, and I was just like in the middle of something, and I felt like completely cut off. And it felt like so like, wow, like I really wanted to say something. And I was in the middle of it, and now I would just like, cut. So a lot of like emotion came, like pretty strong.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah. There we go. I think it's interesting how much technology plays a role in this way of creating yellow lights, just with, it's sort of all day long, actually, in a way. Did the person get my message? Or did they just not want to respond? Are they not responding? Oh, they sent me something and I missed it. All these things all day. And that feeling of being unwanted, or whatever that feeling is that came up, I would like to just to send us out continuing to contemplate this in our day-to-day experience and see what comes up. And maybe people have more to discuss online. I'll create a topic for this in the discussion forums. So I want to let us go and thank everybody for coming today. Pull us all up here so we can see each other properly. And let's go explore ambiguity through the week, and particularly set that intention to bring that green zone principle to those moments of the yellow light for ourselves, and to kind of track the effect of that. See what you notice. So thank you all so much, and I'll send out the reading assignments and the green zone exercises, and please reach out to me anytime and give me feedback on how the course is going. So, thank you. Let's go ahead and acknowledge each other, bow to each other. And have a great rest of your day, night, wherever you are.